And we are live today with this hateful duck of StreamYard because I had issues with my open source. Well, there's no free meal. So if you don't pay for something
Now you get what you
and
pay
it
for.
breaks. So I do free StreamYard and we have the hateful duck on the screen. Well, I can do this thing here. Yeah, I can do yeah, I can do this. Hey, LarryCJohnson, my good friend, how are you doing? I've been missing you 2 weeks.
Yeah, lo barato sale caro.
Barato sale caro. That is true. That is true, and I can prove it.
Yeah, yeah.
How was your trip, man? I was so waiting for us to have this conversation last week because I wanted to ask you about the trip, but you are actually coming back
Yeah, let's see. This
home.
time last week, I was on an airplane.
Gosh.
Yeah, so
And
you know,
answering me. That's amazing.
yeah. Well, even if so, like right now, it is was it 6 o'clock your time? 6 p.m.
6 o'clock. Exactly.
Let's say a little after 6 p.m. So at that time, I was 2 hours into a flight from Moscow headed to Dubai, and so had a great week, 5 days in Moscow, and it was with Judge Napolitano. So we made a good team, and I was able to show him some things about the city because it was his first time there, my third. And then the meeting with Lavrov was extraordinary, and we got to hear very clearly what Russia's positions are on key issues pertaining to the United States, the war in Ukraine, and China.
I wanted to ask that exactly. I watched the what the Kremlin published from your meeting with Lavrov. I thought it was very interesting. I asked Lucas Leroy this weekend because I was so curious to ask, like, what would be the Russian point on calling you judge and Mario? What's the guy's name?
Mario Nafal.
Mario Naufal. Because I always mix his name with someone else's name that it's a very bad person. And then Lucas said, well, the Russians, you have to understand something. The Russians are very like us Brazilians. They just do things that sometimes have no meaning. You know, let's talk with these guys. Perhaps Lavrov is even a fan of the show of Judge. And I say, why not?
Well, actually, I think there was an intent behind doing this session. One, Russia's been terrible on its public relations, the information operation since the start of the special military operation. The concerted effort of the West has been very aggressively involved in trying to counter, trying to paint Russia in a particular light, and they've been very successful. And in my view, Russia's been pretty unsuccessful in defending itself. So this was an attempt to start reaching out into the blogosphere. Now, I admit I'm not the biggest thing on the internet by any stretch, but I have been a credible voice. I did speak, and the invitation of the Russian delegation to the United Nations Security Council on the Nord Stream matter. So they know that I'm a serious person. I'm not one just out trying to garner publicity. Judge Napolitano's show is watched across Russia. It's quite a popular show. And I guess Mario Nafal he also has received a lot of attention on Shitter, or Schwitter, whatever.
I like Shitter.
Yeah. I share your approach to that. So, the invitation was made, I think, through this one foundation, that the Tsargrad Institute. And they asked if we could come in and do this. And the foreign ministry, Lavrov said yes. And Maria Zakharova was there as well. We spent 30 minutes with her, and she's a great diplomat in her own right. Tough as nails, very articulate, smart, attractive, no downside.
No downside whatsoever. Even Lavrov, that, well, he's a little aged now, but back 10, 20 years, he was like the girls, super dude, the Russian super dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apart from Mario, it was an old guys meeting. I mean, good Lord. I'm 70, Judge Napolitano 74, Lavrov is 74. So, like a meeting of a senior citizens board.
I had the thumbnail for this, for if it would have been possible to have this chat last week, and the title was walking down, following the Moskva down to Gorky Park, like the wind of changes music.
Yeah.
But I wanted so bad to have this entire show just to talk about this meeting in Moscow, because I think it was an amazing. You have made already a lot of good material. I'll put the links on the description. The video that you wrote, that you made on countercurrents, plus the videos on the judge. It was amazing material already describing this trip. But things have gone very badly on the last 24, 48 hours. So I'll leave to you. Should we talk about the Middle East?
Well,
or do you want to talk about Moscow?
You can talk about either. It's your show. I'll follow your lead.
It can be my show, but you're the special guest. Yeah. So
yeah, but
let's do a little bit more.
I'm not one of those guests that show up at your house and take over. Okay. I was raised to be polite as a guest, to be appreciative.
I appreciate that. Although you take over anyway. The people from my channel just love when you come here and say, hi. Just shut up. Let the dude speak.
No. So we have, actually, I think the conversation in Moscow is related in part to what's going on in the Middle East, or will at least be affected by it. So we just gotten word that Trump and Putin have finished talking about a half hour ago. They spoke for more than 2 hours. But now we got to wait for the readout. What was said? Trump folks raised expectations that they're really close to getting a deal with Russia. I doubt that. The broad outlines of a deal, yes, but there are a lot of details that would have to be hammered out in order to, I think, satisfy the Russian position. Putin laid it out in June of 2024 before the National Security Council. And the first thing that has to happen is the Ukrainian soldiers have to withdraw from Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, and Luhansk. I see no indication that the Ukrainians are willing to do that willingly. Now, Russia would be more than happy to drive them out militarily. That they'll renounce any intention to join NATO, will agree to be a neutral state. They'll hold new elections because Zelensky is no longer a legitimate president. He's not elected. He suspended elections and locked up the political opposition. The rights of the Russian speakers have to be protected. These are all demands that Russia laid out on the table, And I don't see them backing away from that at all. Now, Trump supposedly wanted to convince them to, maybe give up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Let me put it this way. If Putin makes any kind of concessions to Trump along those lines, I think Putin's presidency will be in jeopardy. Now, kind of gesture, if you will, a concession that Russia could make is not really a concession, is Trump can come out and claim, I got the Russians to agree that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Well, basically, that was already in place. That's what happened when Russia and Iran signed that security agreement on January 17th. But the whole issue of Iran brings me back to why these talks today would, could potentially dictate whether or not we're going to see World War III. Because Trump, over the weekend, when they decided to launch the unprovoked attack on Yemen, issued at the same time a threat for Iran. And I believe the attack on Yemen was to lay a predicate for justifying a subsequent attack on Iran. And I believe that Putin would have conveyed to Trump, you better not do that. That would not be in your interest. He'd find a diplomatic way to say that, but to warn the United States that any attack on Iran would potentially bring Russia into the fray. So, I'm real interested to see what the readout of this conversation was.
Yes, the thumbnail I made today, I forgot to send you. I'll send it later. So if you want,
holding out on me, huh? Boy.
To be very honest, I got mistaken again. I thought it was 7 o'clock, not 6.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry.
The daylight savings time had changed.
Did it change?
Yeah, changed.
Okay.
Yeah, changed a week ago Saturday.
Okay, so that's
while I was in Moscow. So
while you.
Yeah, well, I'm in Moscow and the time changes.
Well, at least when you got home, it's already changed, so you don't have to get used to it. You
Yeah,
just
I
have
was
to
already
get rid of jet lag.
Yep, already jet lagged.
The title of today's thumbnail was Peace Through Strength with a question mark. And I say that, and I put that because I don't see the United States getting any peace, as Trump has been punching. We want peace, we need peace, we need peace, nor showing any strength. I mean, the Zelensky thing on the Oval Office is like, come on, dude, kicking at that dog with, all your buddies around you, and that dog by itself, it's not being strong. And it looked a lot to me like, the government showing strength to the American, the redneck from in the middle of the, I don't know, Nebraska or something like that. Not to the world. To the world, it showed weakness. And so it looks to me that the government showing weakness after weakness and trying to show strength, kicking that dogs. They just bombed Yemen, as you mentioned, and I thought it was a mistake. Yesterday on Judge Napolitano, he showed a very well translated, by the way, video from the Yemenis force, saying that they are going to. It was on with Scott Reeder, showing that the Yemenis force is going to retaliate the aircraft carriers, the American aircraft carriers. And now we have, just today, this morning, I woke up, my wife woke me up saying this. That was amazing. That Israel restarted bombing Gaza.
Yeah.
400 plus dead people.
Yeah.
This looks also like a preemptive strike of something.
It's not preemptive, but it is. I would argue that it was a coordinated effort between Washington and Tel Aviv, between the Trump administration and between Netanyahu. So the second phase of the peace agreement, ceasefire, was supposed to go into effect. And Witkoff, Trump's envoy, was blaming Hamas for holding, creating the difficulties. I don't believe that for a minute. The Zionists have been brutal throughout this process, and again, there's no even equity to it. It's so imbalanced. And they claim, oh, we're defending ourselves because Hamas killed 1,200 Israelis. And so they justify by killing 60,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children. It's sickening. It's shameful. And it's driven by religious fanaticism. And Trump, I had actually held out some hope that maybe Trump was not in their hooks as deeply as many feared, simply because he wasn't standing for re-election again in 4 years. But nope, he's their bitch. Trump is Netanyahu's bitch, and he's doing what the Zionists want, and that's why he started bombing Yemen. Because remember, Yemen had ceased the attacks on the ships as part of honoring the ceasefire. So now, out of nowhere, the U.S. launches attacks. They kill children. They're killing women and children. It's murder. It's terrorism. And people don't like to hear that on my side of the ocean, but it is what it is. And then at the same time, the Trump administration's, shooting its mouth off, claiming they're going to go after Iran. And they may very well. I think they may very well, unless Putin was able to talk some sense into them. So we'll see.
Yeah, this sounds a lot to me like a tripwire. Let's attack Yemen. Yemen's going to shoot back. We're going to say that the missiles were provided by Iran. Let's go for Iran. What do they... Jesus Christ. We were thinking that the Biden administration was that bad.
The Biden administration was considering it too. And in fact, the Biden administration helped Israel launch an attack on Iran on October 27th. So I already did it once, and it didn't turn out well then. And the belief that has possessed many on the Trump side is that they think that the Iranians were tremendously weakened, and therefore it's just a matter of going in and smacking them around, and they'll give up. I think that is a damn stupid assumption.
Yeah, talking about more war, the situation in Kursk. Since you were in, let's first talk about the drone attack that you suffered in Moscow.
I didn't
suffer. A huge drone attack while you were there.
Yeah, I was there. I stayed up till 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning, just in order to get my body clock starting to move back towards the west. And I didn't hear any air raid alerts. No alarms are going off. They didn't issue any warnings to the hotel guests. Take cover. There was no explosions. I didn't hear counter battery fire. So, Moscow is the city of the official number is 13 million, but I was told it was actually closer to 20 million. So it's a big place. And, the fact of the matter is 3 people died reportedly from falling debris from these drones. I bet you there were that many people that died, more than that died that day in an automobile accident in and around Moscow. So, but it still was an attack. I'm not trying to pretend that it's meaningless, but let's not overstate the effect. Let's recognize that it is a terrorist attack. Fortunately, it was a failed terrorist attack, but just because it's a failure doesn't mean that it's insignificant. That shouldn't be happening. And so to that end, Ukraine needs to be punished, but Ukraine's doing that with the assistance of at least the Europeans and probably the United States. Someone's got to pay a price.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I have the internship complaining. Meanwhile, in Kursk, we had the big Kursk, counteroffensive, the fantastic gas pipeline incursion from the Russians. And there was some saying that there should be about 30 NATO high rank raw officers there. And that's possibly the reason why Trump was so sweet talking, which was kind of bad from him doing that. On, let our boys go home, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Larry? And what do you know about the situation there? Because yesterday was supposed to be the deadline, right? Surrender or die.
6 a.m. Moscow time was the deadline, and deadline came and went without Ukraine surrendering or giving an order to surrender. But the Russian military operation continues apace. The Kursk operation from the Ukrainian side is effectively over. They failed to achieve their objectives. They lost a tremendous number of manpower and equipment. And as a consequence of that, Russia is now launching offensive operations all along the line of contact, which stretches about 2,000 kilometers from north to south. So they're moving forward in Zaporizhia. They're moving forward in Donetsk. They're moving forward in Luhansk. They're moving forward in Kherson and in Kharkiv and in Sumy. So all across the line, they're moving. Ukraine doesn't have a means to stop them.
Yeah, and I think Putin was very, very precise when he said that, okay, we can do ceasefires, but who's going to check it? Who's going to be looking at it? Who's going to see or say if we are of who is breaking the ceasefires? And that was smart talking. That was very smart. It was the first thing that I thought. 2,000 kilometers of front lines.
Yeah. Well, it's the details that Putin was outlining. Remember his first reaction to the ceasefire agreement out of Jeddah between the United States and Ukraine was he says, yeah, we are open to considering the ceasefire, but there are nuances. Well, that phrase, but there are nuances, is part of an obscene Russian joke. And I don't know if you had a chance to read what I wrote about that, but essentially, the joke is about a soldier asking a general, what is the meaning of nuance? The general then tells the soldier, I'll show you. And he tells the soldier to drop his pants and bend over. And then the general inserts himself into the anus of the soldier. And he then says to the soldier, you have a penis and an anus, and I have a penis and an anus. That is nuance. It's, that is what Putin was saying. It was a way of, really telling the United States, you're asking, you're proposing something you don't even know the meaning of. So it is those details that have to be hammered out. And, at no point do I think you'll see Russia agree to an actual 30-day ceasefire. They're not going to go for that. They've been bamboozled before.
Yeah, that's it. Doesn't seem like the Russians are on the mood for, sweet talks. And from Washington, everything I see is sweet talks. Yeah, let's dance the dance.
Well, it's not so much sweet talk. It's that they've been bamboozled before, repeatedly. In 2014, they had there was supporting the folks in Donetsk and Luhansk, and the Ukrainians were in tough shape, and they asked for a ceasefire, and so Russia was part of an effort to broker that. That was then violated. The next February 2015, there was the Battle of Debaltseve, the battle in which Ukraine took a beating. And again, the French and Germans, or French and Brits, French and Germans intervened to come up with Minsk II. And Russia was brought into that to help secure it on behalf of Donetsk and Luhansk. And it was that peace agreement was used merely to buy time, as Angela Merkel and Francois Hollande later admitted. Buy time for Ukraine to rearm so they could attack Russia. So what you're seeing here is time after time, the West has proposed ceasefires, temporary, but with no real intent of a genuine negotiated settlement, just as a way to buy some time and to get eventual leverage.
And we see that again with Israel.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Larry, I'm very curious. Tell us your impressions about Moscow.
Oh, it's great. I mean, Massa is a fantastic city. It's clean. It's safe. The only problem is it's got a lot of traffic. You had the largest number of Russians purchase automobiles last year, and I suspect that they'll continue that trend this year. Only they're not buying.
I thought their economy was in tatters.
Yeah, that's what the West pushes, and it's not. The economy is in good shape. Saturday was International Women's Day. It was sort of an off day for the judge and I did we were taken to a museum to look at a presentation on the Battle of Borodino and the French retreat from Russia back in 1812. And while after that, we tried to find a place to eat. Well, International Women's Day is a combination of Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. Every woman in Russia was being taken out to dinner. So the restaurants were just packed with the prior reservations. Couldn't get in. So it was, we had to go eat at a bar in the hotel.
Oh, at least you didn't go to McDonald's. Oh, there's no more McDonald's.
Well, there is.
The Vitoshka, what's the name?
Yeah, it's got a different name. Burger King is still there. Burger King didn't pull out, which is, in my view, great. Burger King is a superior hamburger to McDonald's on any day. I haven't tried it yet in Moscow, though. It's just the craziness that you notice in Western cities, where you got drug addicts on the sidewalks and homeless people everywhere. You don't see that in Russia at all. It's just you do. There is a Russian Orthodox church, an Eastern Orthodox church, about every 3 blocks. It seemingly they are ubiquitous and they're well attended. So it is. Russia has demonstrated to the world what happens if you spend your money on your people as opposed to spending your money like the United States has on pursuing crazy foreign wars and enabling other countries like Israel and Ukraine to carry out combat operations.
Yeah, and we should learn from that. That's important.
We should, but we don't. There is zero learning.
Zero learning. And here in Europe, it's negative learning.
Yeah.
But did you at least follow the Moskva down to Gorky Park?
No, I did not.
We could have a good image.
Didn't have a chance to get there.
Well, in any case, I heard, I will put the links for your description, and it is excellent job you did on that video. I just have one more last question that I would like to ask you, Larry.
Sure.
Are we, it's not a yes or no, are we speeding up into kinetic World War III?
It sure looks that way. If the Trump administration follows through on its threats to Iran, it appears that the U.S. side believes, at least the Trump folks believe, that they can hit Iran, they'll take out their so-called nuclear capability, and we won't suffer any damage. I don't believe that for a minute. I think the Iranian Air Force and air defense system is pretty robust. They will have the help from the Russians in terms of intelligence warning in advance. And I think the United States, the attacking force will be ineffective. They may hit some sites, they may kill some people, but they're not going to destroy Iran's capability to retaliate. So then when Iran retaliates and destroys U.S. military bases throughout the Middle East, the United States doesn't have any kind of air defense system to prevent that. As well as Iran may take that as a time to punish Israel for what Israel did to it on October 27th, for its attack. So now this could get out of hand real quick.
Yeah. Not great news. We were going so well. We were going so well, Larry. For several weeks we've been taking, things look better, and here we are again.
Yeah, Trump had a chance to really create a legacy as a president who brought peace. But this bullshit tough guy act he puts on, it's childish. It really needs to grow up, but that's part of the problem. With Trump, you get good and you get bad. We've had the good, now it looks like we're going to the bad. We'll see. But again, we'll see what came out of the talks with Putin.
Let's hope for it. Let's hope someone puts some senses in their heads.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that was great. LarryJohnson, my great friend. I'm out of questions. It should be a big show today, but I'm just happy with everything I heard.
I think we cover the key points.
Yeah, the key points of the last days, which were very important.
Right,
Larry. I really hope you had an amazing time, and as you said, you finally met the judge in person, right?
Yeah, in person. We were friends and communicated via phone and email and text message over the years, but we'd never actually been in the same room together. So we spent 5 days, eating breakfast and traveling around together. It was great.
Fantastic. With a little bit of luck, this year I'll have the same chance of, sharing a beer with my good friend LarryJohnson.
That'd be wonderful.
For sure. And is there any Brazilian barbecue places there in Moscow? I'll take it.
I didn't have a chance to look, but I would suspect there is.
For sure. That's one thing we are very good on. So it's probably, you said in the first show, LarryJohnson still of quality, Brazilian barbecue.
Yeah, churrasco.
LarryJohnson, my good friend, thank you very much again, and hopefully see you next week.
Yes, sir. Well, it's on my schedule.
Okay, bye everybody.
Right. See you then.